Hello to all agency partners of Termageddon. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. I have Chase with me from GoHighLevel. As you probably all know, GoHighLevel is kind of blowing up in our space. It seems to be a super affordable way for agencies to manage all clients' digital marketing and online presence efforts. So I'm really excited to jump into this conversation. As many of you know, I ran a 12-person web design agency for 7 years. Gosh, some of these newer technologies coming out have me just so excited for the space. And yeah, I guess I probably should just get off my high horse here and introduce Chase. So Chase, welcome to the webinar.
Thanks for having me. Great introduction. And I'm with you. I used to run an agency as well. And it's like we found HighLevel at the very end of my time at the agency, because I joined HighLevel shortly thereafter. But we did have it for a couple of months. And as soon as we implemented it, we saw our lead to booking ratios jump by like 60 to 70% across our entire client base. So I knew when I got the opportunity to join the team, I jumped on it because I knew every agency was going to want to be using this tool.
So it wasn't just your own website, it was your clients' websites that you were seeing a significant improvement in leads as well.
Yeah, I mean, more so there. So let's just jump into it, right?
Yeah.
Agencies typically have really bad client retention, right? The churn rate in the agency industry is really high. We did a study a few years ago and found it to be around 62%. CallRail is about to publish their report from last year, and they found it to be 64%. So it's very high. And so for a while, I struggle with that, as most agencies do. But having worked at HighLevel for several years now, been able to work with thousands of agencies and see really what's going on, I've come up with certain truths that I now believe to be truths, which is one, the churn rate is typically because of lead gen services. So ads, SEO, these are the types of things that people cancel, usually a few months in. Around 3.5 months is the average. And that is because clients are used to referrals. They are used to people showing up or calling that have been pre-sold by a friend or a family member. And that is drastically different than a lead generated off the internet. And so it took us years to realize, wait, there's this disconnect here. We thought we did this great job month one, generating 100 Botox leads for $7 a pop. And then I get on the call with the doctor and he's furious and he's ready to cancel, right? And it's like, where's this disconnect coming from? Well, it's because we were just generating leads and sending them an email saying, here's a new lead, their name, email, phone number, good luck. And we thought that was our job as lead gen agencies, right? And the truth is, clients don't know what to do with those leads, right? They don't have the sales training, they don't have the time, they don't have the staff to, and most importantly, they can't do it fast enough, right? Statistically, this is a well-known fact now. There's basically like a 5-minute shot clock every time a new lead is generated. If you can engage the lead within 5 minutes, you have like a 300% chance of closing it versus if you don't. And so that's when it became super clear that our job is not done at the lead. We have to turn that lead into a booking, because our clients know what to do when someone shows up for that $35 first Cairo visit, or that, whatever for the med spas that we would work with. And that's really what changed the game. So we implemented HighLevel and we made sure every new lead was getting emails, text messages. We have this call connect feature where we actually call the client's office, and when they answer, a robot will be like, hey, you have a new lead. The lead's name's Chase Buckner. Press any key to connect with Chase. If they push a button, we call the lead. If the lead answers, we bridge the call. So We're trying to put the clients on the phone within 5 minutes, and then ringless voicemail. And when we did that, we saw the rates just jump across the board.
That's awesome. Yeah, when I was running my agency, we were doing digital marketing, we were doing everything. And I at one point was so stressed out with all the different platforms I was using and all the different services I was offering. And we were so dependent on these third-party services and what they charged. And I ended up having to just shut the door on it. I was like, we're just going to do web design and development, and we'll partner with digital marketing companies because we can't keep up with all these ever changing different aspects. And you kind of hit a sore point too. I'm sitting here thinking, gosh, like we were generating leads too, but our clients didn't know what to do from there. And it sounds as though, HighLevel has kind of acknowledged that and created systems on how to support that type of experience. And I can't help but think about like, I just had to get a new water heater for my house. And there's two companies I called. One, I got sent a voicemail. I left a voicemail. I never heard back. The other one, I left a voicemail. But like, I think I got like a prompt or something like, do you want to receive an email or something like that? I was like, sure. And I started getting these email threads and it kept me engaged, and it wasn't like overly obnoxious. Like it was like, this is relevant information to me. Like, here's what you can expect when working with us. Like, and like, they just laid out everything. So when they did call me back, I was already pretty much sold, just because the experience I had was a professional experience versus it's
beautiful.
like, yeah, it's kind of like 20 years
nurture.
ago you call. Yeah, it is.
And even that is a little behind of what we can do now. And so where this gets really interesting is over the past 3 years, we've created a bunch of features that run themselves, right? And so it creates this really interesting opportunity, which we call SaaSpreneurship, which we can talk about. But in your specific example, first of all, you called two businesses and neither answered. That right there illustrates the point. Statistically, more than half of the inbound calls that go to small businesses every day during business hours go unanswered. Seems crazy, right? But you just illustrated. You called two businesses, neither answered. What if you immediately got a text back from one of them that said, sorry, Mr. Call, how can we help? Right?
Yeah.
And so that's a feature we call the missed call text back. And so right off that one feature, right, I could go sell a business on, hey, I know statistically you're missing X amount of calls per week. What if I could take 10% of them and turn them into sales, right? What would that be worth to you? Oh, you're a roofing company, that would equal $30,000 in revenue. Okay, great. My tool costs $500 a month. Would you like it? Right? And that's just one feature of HighLevel. And now an agency is in the software game. They can now onboard clients into a set of features that run themselves, meaning I don't have to hire more account managers. I don't have to hire more support people for it. And I collect a smaller amount of revenue, but it's way stickier. The churn rate is around 5% versus 64%. And I can just go build a very sustainable agency. And if I want to add services like ads or SEO on top, I can, but it's a separate invoice that runs in addition to my software subscription. And that's what we call SaaSpreneurship. And that's kind of what we're really changing the industry in a way, because agencies that have been fighting churn for long enough realize that it's not the right model. And so features like the missed call text back, there's like a dozen other features like that we're helping agencies say, hey, start with this and sell it as the software. And now for once, an agency can be the one. How many times did you onboard a client into a software tool? They fired you a couple months later, but they pay for the tool for 2 years, right? Agencies can now finally be the software provider in addition to the services provider. And that has really changed the game.
That's so exciting. Yeah. I can't help but also note, like, Termageddon, we've experienced just, I'd say starting about 2 years ago, and we've just seen a steady increase in agencies applying to be partners where they get a free license for Termageddon. We've seen a steady increase in more and more HighLevel agencies applying. And like, gosh, one of the things that sticks out to me is like, at some point during our onboarding sequence, we're like, here, release a special, and they kind of list out roughly how many clients they have. And it seems to all be just 2 levels higher than what I typically see with an average agency owner. Like,
that's awesome.
Agencies from HighLevel coming in with like 100 clients, 200, 400. We had someone with 500 clients reach out to us, and those exist in other spaces. Like, we absolutely have, partners with that many clients, but it just seems like the average is just several levels higher. Because
if you think about it, a traditional agency with 500 clients, imagine how many account managers that is, right? And just anybody who's built a team knows it just gets exponentially harder the more humans that become involved, right? The more sick days, the more maternity leave, paternity leave, the more this, that, the other thing that you have to, the bigger your HR team has to get, like your accounting compounds, all this stuff. It's just stress that makes it so hard to get to that level as a traditional agency. And that's why the SaaSpreneur agencies are able to scale like that pretty much effortlessly, because the software again runs itself. Once you onboard somebody successfully, the missed call text back is going to fire every time. And the clients, the HighLevel app, which is white labeled on your client's phone, buzzes and they know what to do, right? It's, oh, somebody is replying because they called and didn't get an answer and they're looking for an estimate. Fantastic, right? So what's amazing is we kind of, HighLevel's been white labeled from the beginning. And about in 2019, when we ran that study to see what the churn rate actually was, we then went and said, okay, well, let's look at the best HighLevel customers. What are they doing differently than the ones that are struggling with this churn rate? And it just jumped out at us. They were leveraging the white label, and the other ones weren't, right? They thought white label was like, oh, that's cute. Like I could put my logo in there, but like, I don't really understand how that's going to change anything for me. And it was like, no, this is an opportunity to become a software provider. But back then, if you wanted to do what we call SaaS mode now, it was all manual, right? You get a new client, you create their sub account, you create their user, you set their permissions, you email them their login, you monitor their billing, you manually shut them off if they stop paying. Well, we were like, what if we just doubled down on this white label and built features that took care of all of this? So like we literally could turn people into software companies. And that's what we did. And in 2021, we launched SaaS mode. And just in this past, so the numbers in 2021 were amazing. In 2022 alone, agencies in SaaS mode generated $96 million in software revenue, aside from whatever service revenue that they're generating that we don't see. But we see the software revenue because you connect your Stripe account, right? We see every subscription recharge. And so just insane, nearly $100 million straight to agencies. That's basically purely profit, right? And so look, SaaS is the holy grail of business models, right? We see every major company on earth trying to create their plus whatever, Apple Plus, Disney Plus, HBO Max. I don't know if you saw, but like BMW is now going to charge you a software subscription if you want to activate your heated seats.
Yeah.
That's
that
them
frightening.
getting
Yeah.
into SaaS, right? Because everyone knows it's the business model to be in. And so we're just so excited to be able to take agencies and consultants, the folks that are the ones that actually make the success happen for a small business, and enable them to finally reap the juicy rewards.
That's really exciting. I probably should have started this off at the beginning, but Chase, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself, like what you do at HighLevel?
Yeah, sure. So prior to HighLevel, I ran an agency for like 7-ish years, I think. We did get to the elusive 7-figure status, but it was a roller coaster of a ride, which is pretty common to people that are running agencies. And then I got the chance to join the team. And I initially started out in sort of an education role, so creating a lot of like onboarding trainings, and then I built our initial like kickoff team. And so for like a year, I did every day a group onboarding call for new high levelers. That was a wild year. And then I've had a chance to basically shift into a couple of different teams. So then I built the marketing team. I had the affiliate team for a while. And most recently, we split marketing into product and customer marketing. And now I'm building out a new product marketing team. So it's been a lot of fun because I get to kind of get back closer to the product and work closer with the developers and the product managers. And so, yep, that's where I'm currently at.
That's awesome. And from a high level, can you tell us about HighLevel? And
Yeah, I
also
mean,
maybe touch on its integrations with WordPress. I'd love to have you
sure
expand on that a
thing.
little
Yeah.
bit too.
So high level is essentially we like to think of it as all the tools that a marketer needs to capture, nurture, close, evangelize, meaning your reputation management, and reactivate. And so typically you're able to shed a lot of your tech stack and consolidate it all into high level. So everything you from funnel and website builders to form and survey builders to automation, social media scheduling, it's all in one place. And we have these things called snapshots that are really a game changer for an agency, because everything you build out, you can then take and bundle it up in what's called a snapshot and then deploy that whole thing to your next client. So for those of you who work with the same types of clients, you can scale faster than before, because you don't have to, every time we got a client, we would have to go do 100 things start to finish and then do it for the next client, right? Now you start on third base. Everything's there. You just kind of go fill in some custom values and you're good to go. So it's typically the other thing that's amazing for agencies, and I think why it drives a lot of our success, is because we built the company around this premise that every business needs software to succeed today, but they have no idea what software they need, and they have no idea how to implement it and get going with it. And so they look to consultants and agencies. But then we talked about it. You churn on the agency, but you keep paying the tool provider for years. Those tool providers all are in the model of building a tool, selling it directly to the business who doesn't know if they need it or not, nor how to set it up and use it. They don't care about the person in between. And so they all charge per contact size, right? Per users or per account. And so HighLevel came around and was like, no, we're going to build for the folks that actually make the magic happen, and we're going to price it in their favor. So HighLevel is unlimited client accounts, unlimited contacts in the system, and unlimited users, right? You pay HighLevel one price, you can go resell it to 500 clients at whatever price you want, and that profit's all yours. And so those things combined have been really a breath of fresh air for agencies, because it's kind of like finally someone came along and realized that we're the ones that make all this success happen for small businesses online. And now we have a tool that's priced in our favor, right? Like HubSpot, amazing tool. Love it. Don't get me wrong. Costs a freaking fortune. Agencies just can't afford to run HubSpot for small businesses. And so, but HubSpot can't pivot out of their pricing model, right? Like it's way too late for that. They're just going further upstream into enterprise. And so it's been really fun to kind of take the industry by storm. And yeah, we just passed, I think, 22,000 agencies using HighLevel, and then through them, it's like 500,000 businesses every day use it, but they don't know because it's white labeled, right, to some other agency. Yeah,
That's unreal. 3 months ago, you were at 18,000 agencies. So, I mean, that's an incredible rate. That's so exciting. Yeah, and that price point certainly interested me. And it's a large reason my mindset with Termageddon was I wanted to build Termageddon for web designers and like people who handle web, because clients always ask web designers, what should I do for my privacy policies? And web designers are like, I have no idea. I'm not your attorney. But clients still demand for us to have answers like, well, can you go rip one off someone else's website? And that doesn't feel right. So I just had pain points that I built Termageddon to resolve those pain points for me. And it turns out there's a lot of other people in the space that had these same pain points. And it feels so nice to have platforms be built for agencies, because as you know, I've lost a lot of hair realizing how much work goes into running an agency and running a profitable agency too. So
it's so fun because, again, I think most software companies, a lot of them say that they have like a partner program or an agency program or whatever, but that it's kind of an afterthought pretty clearly. Yep. I think it would, we could call it an afterthought. To be agency only like we are has been so fun, because the community of agency owners and consultants is such a radical group of super smart, misfitty kind of people, right? And it's just so fun to kind of band them all together. And, we had our first big event last year in Dallas in October, and we had 500 high level agencies there. And it was just awesome. Like, it was such an insane party event. We had amazing keynote speakers and everything, but just to get those folks in a room and we all share these, the loss of hair, the pain points, like the horror stories, we all have them. And it's just fun for once to kind of shine light on the fact that these people are what make it happen, right? A business on their own trying to figure out online marketing, it's like a nightmare.
It is. And, I think to the average non-tech person, when you visit a website, you're seeing the tip of the iceberg. When you see ads, you're seeing the tip of the iceberg. You're not seeing everything that went into getting the user to ultimately see the minimal amount of things we need them to see to submit an inquiry, for example. And to think that, in a lot of ways, HighLevel is giving that to agencies. You're giving us the tip of the iceberg so that we can run our business and manage our clients more easily and more scalably.
So you mentioned WordPress. I didn't follow up on that.
Yeah.
I think WordPress is a great example. So we started with a WordPress plugin that did two things. One, it enabled you to install the HighLevel. So we have a web chat widget that you can give to all your clients. And it's not live chat, because we all know live chat sucks. There's never anybody there on the other end. It's just a gateway into an SMS conversation. So the thing pops up, they type their message, it comes into HighLevel as a text message. And when you reply, it goes back to their phone. It works incredibly well. Just text enabling a business, again, is worth $500 a month. And so the WordPress plugin allows you to just install it on a WordPress site without having to deal with scripts, right? The other thing the plugin does is enables you to build pages in HighLevel, right? So in the past, if we were using like a funnel builder, we'd build a funnel and then you put it on a subdomain, right? Something.yourclient.com, because the client's website is WordPress and you were building the funnel in ClickFunnels or whatever. So the WordPress plugin enables you to build pages in HighLevel, but publish them to the root of your WordPress site. So it can be your client.com/whatever, and that page is actually a HighLevel page that's running. So that was our dipping our toes into WordPress. And then, we kept hearing from our clients, like, we love HighLevel, the builder's great, but obviously WordPress is infinitely flexible. We have so many clients on it. Like, we can't migrate them off. What can we do? And we said, all right, well, why don't we fire up WordPress hosting in HighLevel? And I was actually, to be completely honest, voted against it. I was like, we at our agency use WP Engine. Love those guys. Amazing. Their support is absolutely incredible. It enabled us to eliminate the database manager position we had on staff because they were so good. And I was like, how are we going to go compete with the WP engines of the world that have been doing this for years and have it down, Like, we would have to build out all the things that they have, like automated backups and being, all this stuff. And Sean and the team were like, no, that's exactly what we're going to do. Like, one step at a time. I was like, wow. And they've made crazy progress in, the course of I feel like it's been maybe a year now, 8 months, probably not even a year. And so we started off with pricing, right? We're like, okay, I think it's like $10 a month per site. But there's some volume discount. If you have a certain amount, you can save a ton of money. Like, if you have hundreds of client sites and you move them over, you save a ton of money. But what's more important is that, again, because we build for agencies, everything that we build that has an additional charge, we make it rebillable. So you put a margin on it, your client pays $20 a month or whatever, and we send you the 10. And that's those I call them micro revenue ads. It's like 30, that 96 million number, like 30% of that is like fractions of pennies that you make every time your client sends a text or an email, or the margin that you put on the WordPress hosting, or the margin that you put on Yext listings, which you can do through HighLevel. And so WordPress has evolved really fast. It's awesome. You have FTP access now. You can create and manage WordPress users in the HighLevel dashboard. It does auto backups. We've got a migration plugin, and that team's just going to keep going on that. And there's a lot of cool stuff that we can do, like expanding the plugin and whatnot. But I just thought it was a great example of, like, we're not here to tell you to get rid of WordPress if you don't want to. In fact, you can bring it on in, and now you're the hosting provider, right? So now you're making margin, just like you're making margin in all of these other areas. So it's been cool to watch the WordPress team ramp up so fastly and so quickly, and to get where they are in, like I said, about a year's time.
What percentage of agencies using HighLevel are niche focused versus broad?
I would say the successful ones are very niche focused. The newcomers that are in, struggling to get their first 10 clients or get to 10K a month haven't chosen their niche yet. And that's okay, right? Like, I love this conversation because I'm always like, yes, you should choose a niche, but I don't argue the fact, like Sean Clark, our CEO, he does a lot of webinars like this as well. He poo-poos the niche. And I agree for your first 10, because to me, you need to get your first 10 clients however you can get them. And we're working to make that very easy for you. Like, we're building a scan tool. The quick side note, we build what we call the skateboard model, right? So if we're going to build something, most companies don't release it until it's awesome. We release the first crappiest version that we can put out, and we call it a skateboard. And we let our community tell us, do we need to evolve this into a bicycle, a motorcycle, or a full-blown car, right? And so we always put out the skateboard first and let people interact with it. And when it comes to the scan tool, right now, it just scans your reviews and your listings. But very soon it will scan high-level specific stuff, like, do you have a miscalled text pack in place? Do you have a gateway to an SMS chat widget on your site? Do you have Google Business Chat activated? All these things, you'll just be able to scan a business and it'll spit out the report. So in my mind, your first 10 customers are just like that, right? Like, I went to the doctor for a checkup the other day. He asked me what I do. I said, I'm a marketer for a marketing software company. He starts asking me marketing questions about his practice. I was so tempted to do it as a case study, but the scan tool is not quite far enough yet. If it were, let's say, a motorcycle, I would have gone for it and filmed it just to show everyone how easy this could be. But if I just said, would you mind if I did a marketing audit of your business? And I went and ran the scan and came back with the list and said, yeah, like, you failed, you have an F. Like, there are all these things that you should be doing. Most of it's software driven. Our software actually does this. It's $500 a month. Do you want to get going? That's, to me, how you get your first 10, right? You look around. Do you have family members that have businesses? Do your barber, your doctor, your whatever? Just get it going for them and see who it works best with, or who you vibe with, or you know what I mean? And then from your first 10, it should become pretty clear, like, which one you want more of, and that's your niche.
I like that mindset. Yeah, I did not pick a niche, whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
And I got to about 120 clients, had a nice recurring revenue model. We were at that 7-figure, extremely low, like just barely above that 7-figure number, but I couldn't scale from there. And I tried and tried and tried and tried. And now that my client now are agencies, now that I've seen the other side and see how other agencies do it, without a doubt, if I were to still want to have like an agency brand that was like, hey, we can service anyone, so be it. Like, I could have that separate website, but niching down, like, it's like night and day in terms of like the number of clients, the number of revenue, like the type of revenue agencies have. When you niche down, you tend to scale a lot better.
I'll also point out that a niche to me, doesn't have to be an industry. You can create a niche by saying, hey, we only work with folks who are willing to run an offer that we can nurture into a booking. You have to have at least 2 years in business. You have to, meet XYZ requirements. But if that's you, then you're our niche, right? To me, that is
Wow.
a niche as well. So it's just about parameters, right? And knowing if your agency hasn't gotten to the point where you're saying no to people yet, then you're in trouble, right? You need to get there, and that's a really hard thing to do, especially if, like, our agency, our CEO Matt was a sales guy. So for him to say no to money was basically impossible. So we were constantly having this battle of, like, we said we're doing med spas only. We just took a chiropractor again. Why did we do that? It's like, oh, well, he was waving money in my face. I'm not going to say no to that. And in my opinion, in retrospect, you have to get to a point where you're saying no to people, because if you're not specifically choosing your clients, just leads to pain.
I could not agree more with that. I always say one of the most important things I learned when running an agency was how to say no. And earlier in this call, you referred to agencies as highly intelligent, kind of dorky people, and I couldn't agree enough with that. I fit that boat. Well, the dorky side at least. But I think there's another element, which is that I feel like the average agency owner just cares about helping people, and like that is what I've seen resounding, like 99.99% of agencies I have spoken with are just fundamentally people that want to help other people. And when you have that bone in your body where all you want to do is help people, it is extremely hard to say no to people who just need
That's
that
a
quick 5-minute task,
great point. And this is something that I've been kind of coming back to a lot more lately. And there's a book that I read called Rocket Fuel. I don't know if,
I'm familiar. I've read that one in and out multiple times.
and to me, that perfectly illustrates what we're talking about, which is that most major businesses on planet Earth have had this tandem relationship at the top of, they call it a visionary, which is typically like a CEO, sales-minded person, and then there's the I think they call it the implementer, which to me is like the chief operating officer. And those two people are typically a yin and a yang, right? One is take that money, expand, grow as fast as we can, and then the operator is like, no, we need to systematize, niche down, make sure what we're doing is scalable, even if it's slower. And that balance is very important. If you are an agency owner young in your journey, you need to figure out who you are. And in the high level world, we refer to them more as like sales people versus the artist, the builder, the person who can make anything happen. Like you said, right? Like, client comes to you like, hey, I want to do this really weird thing. Like, we want this to happen and this to trigger this and da 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 da. And you look at it and your gears are turning and you're like, I could totally build that out. I could make that happen, right? Probably a bad idea, right? Like, client is probably wrong that they need that. And so you need to figure out which of those two you are and find the other, right? If you don't have that yang to your yin, you'll just make bad deals. You'll say yes to things you shouldn't have. Like, you need someone to hold you accountable and balance out your shortcomings. And if you can find that duo, you typically find success. And we were lucky to have that in our agency. And don't get me wrong, it leads to a lot of, like, you have a lot of heated conversations internally, but those are good because you're keeping each other in check and you're making sure that the agency doesn't go too far in one side or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you who do have like team members, I feel like that almost naturally flushes itself out. It's like you find your opposite and then you work well together, hopefully, and yeah, for the record, that book is, I'm not much of a reader, but that book took me like 6 hours and I completed it. So it's a very fast read, everyone.
You can fly through it. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I don't read a ton of business books, but I read that one a few times and it definitely helped out. And actually, if you're the operator type, the book basically says that you should have like the power of veto. And that changed things for our agency. When I had that as like, wait, see, proof, I knew it. Like, I'm the one that should be able to make the final decision, not the sales team slash CEO or whatever. It's the implementer, the operators that should have the final say. Because again, they're typically in the scale mindset, and they're typically wanting to confine things and build something that is scalable. And scale is the name of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's almost like an operating system for making sure that yin yang like works at its full potential. And therein lies the word rocket fuel, which is basically like, once you can like acknowledge these boundaries and learn like how best to work with each other when you're kind of exact opposites, you have the potential to just rocket, you know, a spaceship kind of thing. And yeah, I bit off onto that book hard too. So that's really cool. That's really cool. You experienced that
I
as
loved
well.
the other helpful thing from that book was it is the visionary's job to come up with new stuff, right? And so, oh, all right, maybe we do want to start selling websites. Okay, great. But if we commit to doing it, if you listen to Rocket Fuel, you're committed for at least a certain amount of time, and you're not going to change. And that's the problem, is a lot of visionaries want to quickly, oh, I know I said that, but I changed my mind. We're going to do this, da, da, da. In the Rocket Fuel mentality, it's like, no, we agreed for the next 3 quarters, we were going to start selling these types of websites to this industry, and we're not going to deviate. And at the end of those 3 quarters, we'll know if it was a good idea or not, but we're not changing course in that time. And that was a really powerful sort of lesson.
Yeah, as someone who would consider themselves like the salesperson, the visionary, whatever, it has been very grounding for me, which is actually very relieving for the visionary person, because sometimes you feel like there's no canvas, like you're just out in outer space with just all these ideas and like, how do I, and it helps you even organize your own thoughts and value your thoughts and rank your thoughts and all those things when you're on that more the, hey, I'm kind of a space cadet. I'm the space cadet of the crew, you know.
You
and
have
this
to
is kind of
have
how
the
I think.
yang, right? Otherwise you're just floating around in space, and it's hard to get traction when you're on to the next idea, you know, and you've got whiplash going on.
Yep, 100% agree. All right, well, let's bring this back into high level. There was something I wanted to note in this webinar, which was my interest from a privacy perspective. And that is because, you know, I think most website owners or digital marketers, they're using, you know, 15 different softwares, and meaning that they're typically sharing things like names, emails, and phone numbers with excessive amounts of companies. And I just wanted to share my thoughts and excitement from a privacy perspective on what HighLevel is doing, which is that, you know, when you're minimizing with whom you share data with, that's less disclosures in your privacy policy, meaning your privacy policy is more legible, which is a requirement under civil privacy laws. But also, I mean, that's just a good privacy practice to not have your data be put into a bunch of locations. If you have an opportunity to put it into less locations, not to mention save more money every month. Because I mean, I don't know about the last time you paid an active campaign bill, but I pay it every month, and it's depressing. It's gut wrenching every month. You know, the thought that they all sit in one place, and granted, you mentioned prior to this webinar, you know, that's shared with AWS or the Google cloud system. But regardless, it's less places where data is being shared. And I would say that's something exciting. And because it's a part of your core, that's very exciting for what the future looks like in terms of privacy regulations. So.
Yeah, I was shocked when you told me that other platforms do that. And I guess I could see why, because it's like, oh, we've seen this contact before. We have information around them that could be beneficial to the next owner of this contact or whatever. But yeah, we definitely do not do that.
Yeah, and I don't want to name any names here because I don't want to be bashing anyone, but there are some companies out there that I do have concerns with regard to their privacy practices and how that's going to pan out in the long run. Like I guess
Dude,
I'll say. So
this is me speaking personally, not on behalf of HighLevel, but I hate that kind of marketing, right? Like I see more and more of this like data aggregation stuff where it's like we scrape all these databases of people's personal information and compile it together and spit it out into a list of leads that you should go cold call. And to me, that's just like the worst type of marketing, right? Like nobody wants to be on the other end of that marketing. And, you know, so I don't get excited about stuff like that. Like, I get that AI could go make all that even easier for us, but to me, marketing has always been about helping people, having a relationship with that client. You know what I mean? And that's why I've always loved local. Like, businesses that you actually can go see and
Mhm.
visit and be a customer of theirs as well. So yeah, that kind of stuff, it always kind of rubs me the wrong way.
I hear you. One of the unforeseen benefits of naming our company Termageddon was the fact that like anyone who's willing to do business with a company called Termageddon are instantly people I will most likely get along with really well. And yeah, like every partner that's taken the time to actually chat with me, we've had wonderful conversations, and there's every time I go to a city, I'm getting beers with someone, and that's just so cool. And I
I
think you get that with small
absolutely
business.
love that. I think that that's great advice, right? I think a lot of people build safe brands when
Hmm.
really we're all just big kids at heart, right? Like, I feel like if people sort of had more faith in that, like I have a personal sort of brand that I want to start up, and I myself went back and forth. I have a really like creative idea for it, and then like a safer one. And in the past, year or so, I'm just like, no, 100%. I'm going the full me version, and it's gonna be a little off the wall for a lot of people who
Hmm.
probably know me from the high level community or whatever. But it will be just what you said. People that are reaching out will be on the same vibe,
Wavelength. Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh. 100%. But I mine wasn't a stroke of genius. Mine was a stroke of luck, which was like, oh wow, like that probably filtered out anyone who's like, I don't work well with people who think they're better than other people. I just don't like. I can work with those people. I know how to like do sales with them and stuff, but that's not how I want to spend my life. And it's just been enjoyable working with people like you, who we connected for a spotlight session and just instantly connected. Like we could
Yeah.
just, we didn't even make plans for this webinar. We just knew we could talk about things that we
And
wanted to
I think
talk
I
about.
remember on
So
that call saying, I freaking love your name, Termageddon. That's hilarious.
oh, it's great. Well, let's wrap this up here. We're at the 45-minute mark. Chase, where can agencies go to start to get acclimated with like what HighLevel has to offer?
Yeah, so GoHighLevel.com is the website. We have a 14-day free trial, so you can sign up and test it out for 2 weeks. If you do open up a trial, you're going to immediately start getting nurtured into the kickoff call. And I would definitely take us up on that. Basically, the team will walk you through those automated features I talked about, because that's the quickest way to find success. A lot of people come in and they're like, oh, I heard it does this crazy stuff and that. And it's like, yes, it does. But you should learn these quick automated features, because it's the quickest way to get a customer, keep a customer, and then you can, expand from there. But definitely hop on that call. They'll teach you kind of like the quick wins list that you could, immediately go get a client, install them in an hour, and, have a customer paying you a couple $100 a month for years.
It's great advice. We have a very similar concept with us where after a certain amount of steps, we ask agency partners to get on a call with us. And for the ones that actually take advantage of that quick 30 minutes, like I know, like it's so very real. Like I check
Yeah.
out their account a few months later, and sure enough, they've just blossomed. Like and I know that they're making more recurring revenue now. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just, why not take advantage of, I would say I think a lot of people hear kickoff calls and they think I'm going to be sold to, when in
Yeah.
reality, when we're building things for people, agencies, we just want to share like, hey, here's how you can be successful. Like I'm not here to upsell you or try to, make you uncomfortable. That's the opposite of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make
Right.
you excited and see what we see, and like and show you best practices so you can get in and make a decision as quickly as possible. Is this right for me or not? So
Mm-hmm. Totally. Take advantage of your kickoff calls.
that's right. That's right. All right, Chase. Well, it's always a pleasure. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me. Any other final thoughts or anything you wanted to share?
No, thanks so much for having me. I hope you guys check out HighLevel if you heard anything that sounds appealing to you. But hopefully some of this hit home. If you are building a traditional agency, I would say like a lead gen agency, um, A lot of what we talked about is just hard facts. So I would definitely, consider what we talked about, and hopefully, whether it's with HighLevel or not, you have to find a way to really productize or have a productized offer that's going to keep people around for longer than that 3.5 month average, because it's very hard to scale an agency when you're turning clients at the industry average.
That's great. Thanks so much for your time today, Chase.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.